and you see folks waving tea bags around, let me just remind them that I am happy to have a serious conversation about how we are going to cut our health care costs down over the long term. But let's not play games and pretend that the reason is because of the Recovery Act.
This initiative is funded by the high end. We call it AstroTurf. It's not really a grassroots movement. It's AstroTurf by some of the wealthiest people in America to keep the focus on tax cuts for the rich instead of for the great middle class.
I don't think it's indicative of the nation's mood. I don't think we ought to be distracted by that. My message to them is they're wrong.
Okay, so Washington doesn't understand what people are trying to say to them. So how do you get them to listen? Here now is the author of What Americans Really Want, Frank Luntz. Frank, I had you on the radio show a couple of days ago, and we talked about the different signs that people see at tea parties. While Washington may not believe that this is grassroots, they don't have organizations like SEIU and ACORN that do focus groups and then find out exactly what to have printed by union members on signs. Most of the people just make them themselves. You say it's important to watch the wording. What should the signs say? What is the message, first of all, that you found through research?
Well, first, the message, and it's the reason why I wrote What Americans Really Want, Really. You've been very involved, Glenn, in this effort, and I wanted to write the lexicon, the language behind this. In the last 6 months, that's all I've been doing is studying this anger that's out there in America. And for Nancy Pelosi, not a grassroots movement? Come on. 72% of Americans define themselves as mad as hell and not going to take it anymore.
That's amazing.
And why are they so angry? They feel like they're not being heard. Every member of Congress and every senator that doesn't hold at least a dozen town hall meetings is denying the American people the one thing they want more than anything else, Glenn, to be heard. Freedom of speech is the most powerful component of the Bill of Rights. We tested it. All the polling is in the book. And that's not just the ability to speak. They want their elected officials to once again represent them rather than ignore them.
Okay, so let's go over, because we had these signs made up. I don't know if you can see me out in Chicago. By the way, we're really sorry about those Olympics there in Chicago there, Frank, really. Seriously.
I can imagine.
Here is the first sign. You say just put one word on it.
Yeah, it's the word why. And the reason why is that the American people look towards Washington and they don't understand it. They don't understand the spending. They don't understand the programs. They don't understand why Washington can't even figure out how to download 1,000 pages, which you and I can do just like a snap of the fingers. And yet then Washington says that they want to take over health care for 300 million people. Glenn, the key in all of this, and I say this to the moms who are watching, simplicity is the most powerful sign that you can have. The shorter the sign, the better.
Okay.
The more simple, the better.
There was a new study out, I think it was Rasmussen today, and you and I have talked about this for the last couple of weeks, that for the first time in a while now, accountability or corruption is now beating the economy as the #1 concern, which leads to, I think, to the second sign.
Yes, and it's 3 words. It's accountability, why not? And I'm going to quote you from the work that we did, also from the book, for those of you who have it, page 187. When you think of government, which of the following do you think is needed most? Even more than common sense, even more than change, which is what Barack Obama proposed, 50% of Americans choose accountability as the #1 attribute. And I'll tell you right now, they don't see it, they don't feel it, and they're right about it. What kind of accountability do you have when the American people can't even see the legislation that Washington is voting on?
This one, Frank, speaks volumes to me, because this is the way I think so many people feel, especially they went to the town hall meetings and they felt, I have a right to be heard.
And that's the whole process behind it. We still believe in the Bill of Rights. We still believe in the Declaration of Independence. Heck, we fought a battle over independence because a government wasn't listening to the people. But here's the point. If you notice in each of these so far, those rights to be heard, in each of them, they're positive. They're uplifting. They're asserting what Americans believe for themselves.
Right.
There's no attack on Barack Obama and no mention of him. There's no mention of Democrats because this is a nonpartisan outcry from the American people. The right to be heard is so fundamental in American life. Husbands expect it from wives and vice versa.
Okay.
Children want it from parents and vice versa. Why shouldn't we have the right to be heard from those who we elect?
Okay, hang on. We want to come back. I'm going to run through the rest of these signs real quick when we come back. The moms have a couple of questions for you. And I also want to pick up that this is the opposite of Saul Alinsky. Will it work to be positive in America? I think it will, but you are the expert on that. More with Frank Luntz in just a second. All right, we're back with Frank Luntz and our moms here. Frank is the author of What Americans Want, What Americans Really Want, Really. And I just want to go through these signs real quick. Signs that Frank says this is what the Tea Party people should be carrying. The next one is how much will it cost, right? Then Frank, what's...
And that's...
Go ahead.
And that's also part of stop wasting my money. The number one thing that the American people want out of Washington is to stop wasteful Washington spending. 62% choose that as their first or second top priority. Nothing else comes close.
These are all such common sense. Who will pay for it with a dollar sign? Before you sign it, read it. Don't make promises you can't keep. And
I love that one.
This is the most clever out of them all, but it's so true. The IRS, Post Office, Katrina, now healthcare.
And by the way, Glenn, the language there is, would you trust the government that gave you the compassion of the IRS, the efficiency of the Post Office, and the effectiveness of Katrina to now deliver health care for you and your family?
Nobody would do it in a million years. Okay, so let me start with this. We'll open it up to the moms. Does this work, Frank? Because this is the opposite of what everybody in a political movement would say would work. Everybody would say, you got to go negative. This is positive. This is all stuff that you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Because the American people are tired of negativity. They look at Washington and they think that Washington has gone negative on them. What they're asking for, if you just ask the American people, is that they want hope, they want opportunity, and for the moms right there, and this is a great lead into them, the two statistics from What Americans Really Want, Really, that bothered me the most. Number one, 57% believe that their children will inherit a worse America than they did. And number two, 33% believe that only 33% that their children will have a better quality of life. Imagine that, moms. America is with you. They agree with you, and they're so afraid for their children and the next generation.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question, too, about that sign. I have a right to be heard. Myself and my friend Barbara, we have children with disabilities. And I know when I was in Seattle, I had two friends, Alicia and Deborah. They had children with disabilities. How did their voice get heard? Because that special population seems to be the one that's always neglected.
Well, they're heard by showing up. And if they sit in the front, in fact, my strategy for them is to get there especially early and sit right in the front. Because if you're an elected official, you will feel responsibility to call on the mom. Yeah. And with the children with disabilities, if they can speak, if they can, for them to ask the question is that much more powerful.
Wow.
Frank, it kind of goes back to what I said about moms, that moms are the key because moms aren't terrorists. Moms aren't hate mongers. Moms aren't they're moms. And so...
Well, let me give you the statistics.
Yeah.
The four most trusted professions in America, a countdown. Number 4 is the clergy. Number 3 is the pharmacist. Number 2 is the fireman. And the most trusted profession in America is the mom.
Okay, Frank, if we're the
Yes.
most trusted profession in America, how can we get taken seriously? I hear from so many moms, and I've felt it myself. You go in to talk to somebody, and they just give you the automatic eye roll. Oh, it's another mom.
See, but I think that comes from, and Frank, help me out here, I think that comes from, we talked about it earlier, I'm sick of hearing women say, I'm just a mom. It's the most important thing anybody does. I think if you start taking yourself seriously and say, damn right I'm a mom, instead of I'm just a mom, damn right I'm a mom, I think the whole thing changes. Frank, am I wrong?
You're dead right, and it's why moms need to organize. You need to get on the web. You need to start doing these meetings that you've been having, but you need to expand it. And what you say when everybody comes in is that you leave your politics at the door, you leave your partisanship at the door, and you commit as moms to doing those things we need to do for the next generation. No more spending, no more taxes, no more of these things that are making it so much more difficult, not just for you as a mom, but for your children as they get older.
We'll be right back in just a minute.